I'd like to welcome everyone to my adventure in migraines. This is a little video about my struggles and my tests and experiences that I've had with trying to determine my headaches and migraines I've had for the last several years. And I hope that maybe you might get something out of this that might help you if you suffer from migraines and headaches. There's nothing like waking up in the middle of the night or throughout the day in so much pain that you find yourself in the fetal position. And I know I've been there many times myself, being in absolute agony trying to get some kind of relief from migraine. But we are not alone. If you suffer from headaches and migraines, we're in pretty good company. Serena Williams, Ben Affleck, Lisa Kudrow, Carly Simon, Mary Todd Lincoln, and Thomas Jefferson all suffered or are currently suffering from migraines. Migraines are an interesting ailment. Basically, 10% of people around the world have migraines. Migraines primarily affect people between 20 and 50 years of age, and it's a shame that women are 3 times more likely to get migraines than men will. I have 3 basic types of headaches and migraines that I experience, and I list them as the Vice, Pressure, and Milwaukee. Now that's an odd name, but you'll understand when you understand what a Milwaukee migraine is. But a Vice is pretty much understandable. That's when your head just feels like there's a vice clamping down on it. And let me tell you, it's not a happy experience. The pressure migraines are exactly opposite from a Vice migraine, and that's when the pressure inside your skull becomes so great your head just feels like it's going to explode. Those are not happy migraines either. But the worst of my migraines and headaches that I get, I call a Milwaukee migraine, because it feels like a Milwaukee drill is boring into my skull. And these are the ones that will drive me to tears and into the fetal position faster than anything else. I've sometimes wondered throughout history, seeing skulls with holes bored into them, if some of the ancient individuals of our world tried to relieve migraines by boring holes into skulls, trying to release pressure, or perhaps even evil spirits. Even in the early ages, medieval physicians would bore holes into people's skulls, either relieving the pain and pressure. But my doctor was a little bit smarter than that. I began my migraine adventure by having an MRI. She wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything wrong with anything upstairs, that I didn't have any types of blood clots or aneurysms or whatever it might be, tumors. Because I tell you, some of the migraines I had were so intense, I sometimes wonder if I did have a tumor. But no, all the scans were clear. My doctor prescribed me a drug called rizatriptan, which is a very common headache and migraine medication. It's fast-acting and took care of the problem. The only problem with taking an additional drug is I was taking this 3 or 4 times a week, and I was concerned about any long-term side effects. So how did I find my triggers? It took a long time, and primarily I had to document everything I ate and when I ate it for several weeks and months. Since the MRI ruled out any brain abnormalities, the next thing was to try to find out what my triggers were. So for months and months, I kept a journal of everything I ate and at what time I ate it. And then I'd see when I'd have my headaches, and I'd make notations of that. So little asterisks were times when I started getting migraines again. And so I just tracked those week after week, day after day, finding out if food were also triggering my headaches. As I was keeping a log of the food I was eating, I also made a spreadsheet that included the day, the time, and what foods I was eating, and also what time a migraine was happening. So on June 4th, I had Costa Vida leftover, sloppy joes, milk, steak, onions, yams, and beans, and then early the following morning at 3:30, I experienced a migraine. This log was kept for 5 months. My next step on my spreadsheet was to take days where I experienced a headache and move them over to this column. Days where I had no headache remained in this first column. So as it progressed, each day I experienced a headache was placed along with this food in this column right here. After several months, I started having suspicions on what foods were giving me migraines and headaches. I then started to eliminate some of the foods I knew were not a problem. For example, on June the 9th, I had cinnamon toast. Well, I know that cinnamon toast was not a problem because I also had cinnamon toast on the 8th and also on the 6th. So cinnamon toast here could be eliminated. I also had pepperoni pizza on other days, and that could be eliminated. And pepperoni pizza here could be eliminated. T-bones, mashed potatoes, and vegetables could be eliminated. Cinnamon toast up here could be eliminated, along with milk and my Costa Vida. Eventually, the list became shorter and shorter as I was able to eliminate foods that I ate and on other days of the week without any problem. After several months, my list became shorter and shorter as I was able to eliminate more and more foods. Once I had the final list, I then had to break down these foods into their individual ingredients. For example, breadsticks has flour, salt, sugar, and baking powder and yeast. All these foods I've had in other foods that never gave me any problem, so these foods could be eliminated. Tomatoes and onions and pickles and cheese were also not a problem and could be eliminated. Shortening and corn syrup were eliminated, along with malt was also eliminated. After a while, it became very apparent that there were a few foods that remained that kept on repeating themselves over and over and over again. And the two primary culprits was soy lecithin and MSG. And after consulting with my doctor, it was determined that these foods were trigger foods that I need to stay away from. But then came the period of pain. I needed to make sure that these foods were in fact trigger foods, and so I'd go several days without eating any of these foods, and I would not have a headache. And then came days where I would intentionally eat food with soy lecithin and MSG, and sure enough, I experienced headaches. So finally, I was able to identify my trigger foods. And it turned out I had some pretty interesting migraine triggers. And I had a lot of the traditional migraine triggers. Well, caffeine is one of the triggers that can affect a lot of people. But I don't think people realize what contains caffeine. Of course, we have the two common things, and these are the two drinks I absolutely adored, Mountain Dew, and I loved my Dr. Pepper. But outside of soda pop, candy bars, anything that had cocoa or chocolate has caffeine, including hot chocolate, Oreo cookies, which I love to have Oreo cookies. Each cookie can have up to 2 milligrams of caffeine. Of course, Hershey's syrup, cocoa powder, all these things have caffeine, which I no longer could eat. And then there was another common characters that also cause problems, and that's monosodium glutamate, also known as MSG. And I was surprised to find foods that had MSG, such as Doritos, Cheetos, of course, Chinese food. Kentucky Fried Chicken has MSG, including salad dressings, and also different types of ramen and other quick prepared foods all had MSG. But one of the most interesting migraine triggers that I discovered was not so much soy. I can eat all the soy and soy sauce until the cows come home. but it's called soy lecithin. And the way they make soy lecithin was really surprising, and I can't believe that it's actually allowed. But they use hexane and acetone and benzene to extract the lecithin from the soybean. And this is a compound that allows an oil and a liquid to be bound together without separating. And I tell you, if you start looking at food ingredient labels, a lot of foods out there have soy lecithin. And these are foods that I no longer can enjoy. My headaches used to occur throughout the day, but as things progressed, I noticed some interesting changes. I'd usually go to bed around 11 o'clock after watching the news, but my headaches started happening between the hours of 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. Almost on cue, the headaches would begin to start and would eventually build and build and build until it became unbearable. So I started wondering what was causing these nighttime headaches. Was it something to do with my body position in the middle of the night? Was it because my body was in a horizontal position? I was also wondering if it could be a case of my metabolism slowing down during the night. So I kept logs to find out what was going on inside. My wife found out from a neighbor that her daughter experienced headaches from changes in barometric pressure, and that when a storm would come in, she would get headaches. And so I started tracking that as well. And it seemed to me for a while that I too had barometric pressure as a headache. But the problem with that is barometric pressure would change also during the daytime, not just at nighttime. And I never experienced migraines during the daytime. So barometric pressure was ruled out. My headaches continued to happen between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. So with all my data at hand, I started doing research, scouring the web, looking at journals and publications on the cause of these nighttime headaches. And just like a bolt from the blue, I found an article from the National Institutes of Health that had the answer I was seeking. I had what was called hypnic headaches, also known as HH, and these were very unusual headaches. I continued my research and found the following. Hypnic headaches is a chronic disorder that can last for years without any remission. Oh boy, I'm looking forward to that. Also, I found out they're also called clockwise headaches or alarm clock headaches because they always happen in the early hours. The exact cause of hypnic headaches is unknown. No one knows the reasons, no one knows the cause. And things just got better. They're a source of chronic pain, which I can attest to. The pain is amazing. Also, the headaches are rare and also occur during sleep. And this is exactly what started happening to me, having these headaches in the early hours of the night. And it is also common for the headaches to occur after the age of 50. The patients with migraines are more likely to develop HH. But at least there was a glimmer of hope in the research that I uncovered, and that is that caffeine between 40 and 60 milligrams was basically showed really good treatment results for people with hypnic headaches. It was amazing that caffeine, which was one of my triggers, turned out to be one of my saviors. So not wanting to drink a Dr. Pepper right before bedtime every evening, I turned to over-the-counter caffeine pills. These are usually 200 milligrams, and with a pill cutter, I was able to cut the 200 milligram pills into 50 milligram sections. And this is what I took right before bedtime. The effects were amazing. No more headaches between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was surprised that the caffeine right before bedtime did not hinder my ability to sleep. So caffeine turned out to be the first line of defense against my hypnic headaches. So after months and months of having these terrible headaches, I finally was able to get relief from my headaches. I've been on a caffeine regimen now for about 3 weeks, and I've had nothing but blissful sleep. So if you suffer from migraines, and if you have these terrible headaches that are happening in the early morning hours, do some research on HH, hypnic headaches, and see if that might help you gain relief. But don't do it alone. I strongly suggest that you do it in concert with a physician or with a doctor, and consult your doctor before taking any medications. I hope you found this helpful, and if you're one of the 10% in the United States that suffer from migraines and hypnic headaches, I hope that you find relief and some comfort in this video. I'd like to thank you for your time. I wish you well, and I hope that you can find a solution to your pain and anguish.